Good evening. We begin with shocking vision tonight from Sydney's southwest. A teenage P-plater on a suspended licence, blasting through a red light, losing control of his car before hitting a 4-year-old girl and her grandmother who were walking home at Glenfield. The 72-year-old woman now in Westmead Hospital with serious head injuries.
Tuesday afternoon on Glenfield Road, traffic comes to a stop at a red light, but a Toyota sedan misses the signal. Narrowly avoiding oncoming cars, it ploughs onto the footpath. What happens next? Too confronting to show. A 4-year-old girl and her 72-year-old grandmother were waiting at the crossing, the sedan hurling them into the air. Behind the wheel of the Toyota, an 18-year-old P-plater on a suspended licence.
Hardly, I think the boom is noise.
Just moments earlier, they can be seen walking up to the intersection, the grandmother clutching a backpack as they make their way home.
You never know what could happen as you're walking down the road.
Neighbours rushed to help until police and paramedics arrived at the scene.
The roads were so busy and police and ambulance were dealing with everything. There was traffic controllers.
The impact so severe, the 4-year-old girl landed on this tree here. Emergency services forced to cut the branches in order to free her. Miraculously, both survived. The 72-year-old woman tonight at Westmead Hospital with serious head injuries. The little girl stable and has been discharged.
Nobody wants to see one of their loved ones put in that situation.
The teenage driver was taken to Liverpool Hospital but has since been released.
I expect that we'll be speaking to him in the very near future.
In Glenfield.
Words like low-fat, diet and cholesterol-free are associated with foods marketed as healthy. But researchers say these product labels can't always be trusted, claiming they're designed to trick shoppers.
Pantry staples, part of many home-cooked favourites.
Meal choices and prepping is my biggest bane of the week. Trying to please our family and keep everyone happy every night is definitely a challenge.
Katie Waller juggles work, life and a family of 4. Confusing food labels make the balance harder.
100% they're trying to trick you.
We cannot rely on the food industry to do the very best for us.
Experts at the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute want to help you decode common terms.
Food labelling is far too complex. It is regulated, but unless you really understand what they mean, it's pointless.
Some common traps include no added sugar, as sugar can still be present, reduced versus low, low being the better alternative, and cholesterol-free on products that had no cholesterol to begin with.
Light can mean light anything. It could be light flavour, light colour.
Reading the back of the product provides the best information. Labels can be complicated if you're looking just at ingredients. A good tip is to look at what's listed first. That's what the majority of the product is made up of. The rest is listed in descending order.
Start in your pantry. When you run out of a product, look at the label and determine, are you happy with this?
Looking at the sugars in this, are you happy with that?
Now that I'm looking at it, it's probably a little bit higher than I expected.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We just have to incrementally make these changes.
Parts of Spain are again underwater 2 weeks after the country's worst flooding disaster in decades. A dangerous red alert issued for southern regions, prompting thousands to flee their homes.
The country had barely begun to recover. Now Spain faces a new flooding emergency. Streets in Valencia and Malaga underwater. Rivers turn to torrents. Here, fast-flowing water threatens to wash over a bridge. Drivers perhaps not realising how close they are to being swept away. A red alert issued for southern provinces, with predictions the powerful storm would dump up to 7 inches of rain. Warnings spanning all the way up towards Barcelona. More than 4,000 people living near the Guadalhorce River evacuated from their homes. A number that continues to rise. Schools once again forced to close. At the University of Malaga, water pours from the ceiling. This, one of the city's train stations, the entrance gates and the tracks inundated. So too the entrance to the airport. Just 2 weeks ago, the same weather phenomenon, Dana, caused Spain's most devastating floods in decades. As many as 220 people losing their lives. When water levels eventually subsided, seething anger took its place. Widespread fury at leaders and government agencies over insufficient warnings and an inadequate response. Despite some harsh lessons learned, some still take their chances, attempting to drive through the rising dirty waters. These communities are already hurting, but they're also fed up and desperately want this latest threat to pass. In
A
London,
thick layer of smog is covering parts of Pakistan, and these satellite images show that it can now be seen from space. The country has been seeing record levels of air pollution this month, with Lahore's air quality index as high as 400. Anything above 300 is considered hazardous. Schools have been closed, and most outdoor activities are now banned until next week as authorities wait for the smog to clear.
Explosions rocked the heart of Brazil's capital, Brasilia, on Wednesday night, just days before the G20 summit kicks off in Rio de Janeiro and a state visit to the capital by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Officials said a man killed himself with a bomb near Brasilia's Supreme Court Justice building. The court justices were evacuated safely, and President Lula da Silva had left the nearby Executive Palace shortly before the blasts. Local TV showed firefighters battling a blaze where the explosions occurred. An eyewitness and federal employees said she saw a man waving at her before throwing something at the building and falling to the ground. Authorities said the man owned a nearby car, in which another explosion blew open the trunk. Federal District Vice Governor Celina Leo said the capital had stepped up its security after the blasts. Authorities are still investigating if this was an isolated case. The explosions took place around the Plaza of the Three Powers. That square connects the principal buildings of Brazil's three branches of federal government. It was the scene of riots on January 8th last year, when supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro ransacked the buildings to protest his electoral defeat.
Latihan ini merupakan latihan bilateral antara Indonesia dengan Australia. Dalam hal ini TNI dengan ADR. Latihan ini buat kita berdua ini latihan yang paling besar sekarang ini.
في بس وراه بنيه يعني سند اخضر ما سند اخضر. نحاول الاقتراب قليلا لكن نحاول ايضا لا نعيد عمل انتهاء المختصه.
turn our attention to West Asia, where Hezbollah claims to have launched a direct attack on the very core of Israel's defense infrastructure in Tel Aviv. According to Hezbollah, its forces launched missiles and drones at the Kiryat military base. That's a key strategic center for Israel's military operations, housing Israel's military headquarters, the Defense Ministry, the War Command Center, General Staff, and the Air Force's critical command posts. The Kiryat complex is reportedly located in a busy area of Tel Aviv, close to shopping centers and public transit hubs. As per Israeli media reports, despite the claimed attacks, Tel Aviv's air raid sirens remained silent, and there were no immediate damage reports either. Meanwhile, the IDF is yet to issue any statement on the matter. While Hezbollah in its statement said that it hit Kiryat with a squadron of advanced precision-guided drones with quote-unquote pinpoint accuracy. In a separate statement, Hezbollah said it struck Kiryat again with Qadr-2 ballistic missiles, claiming these two found their mark with precision. So what's going on here? Is Hezbollah exaggerating its capabilities, or is Israel deliberately downplaying the impact of these attacks? Furthermore, Hezbollah claims that it also targeted another prominent Israeli military site. That's an arms manufacturing complex owned by Israeli weapons industries near Tel Aviv, that reportedly plays a major role in supplying Israeli military. If Hezbollah's claims are true, Hezbollah's target list reflects a deliberate strategy to hit Israel where it hurts most. Not only its defense leadership, but also its military industrial backbone. And remember, last week, Hezbollah claimed that it had struck at least 3 Israeli military bases: the Yiftah military base, the Eliakim military base, and the Stella Maris naval base. Meanwhile, Hezbollah strikes aren't just confined to Israel. They claim to have launched missiles on Israeli forces positioned in southern Lebanon, near the key border town of Ben Jbeil. In a statement, Hezbollah said it targeted the IDF forces on the southern outskirts of the town with a salvo of Nasser 1 type missiles. On the other hand, the IDF reportedly conducted strikes on a Hezbollah stronghold located in the southern suburbs of Beirut. Prior to these attacks, IDF spokesperson in Arabic called for the civilian evacuation from these areas in southern Beirut in a post on X, telling Lebanese residents to evacuate no less than 500 meters from these areas. Even as the war rages on, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, said that any ceasefire with Lebanon must involve Hezbollah's complete disarmament and withdrawal from north of Lebanon's Litani River.
We will not make any ceasefires, and we will not stop and will not take our foot off the pedal. And we will not allow any arrangement that does not include achieving the goals of the war, which is disarming Hezbollah, withdrawing it from beyond the Litani River, and mainly creating the true conditions for the residents of the north to return to their homes safely.
Now, as you just heard, Katz is demanding a major shift in Hezbollah's presence and power in southern Lebanon, perhaps leaving little room for compromise. As both sides stand firm, we're left with critical questions. Is Israel's silence on any damage at Kiryat a sign of resilience? Or is it a strategic move to deny Hezbollah from claiming a key strike? And for Hezbollah, does this strike on Israel's heart represent a risk? One that could perhaps trigger a broader Israeli response? As we wait for more clarity, it's clear both Israel and Hezbollah are raising military stakes. The question remains, how far are they willing to go? And if anyone will back down.
Australia has broken ranks with the US and Israel, voting at the UN to recognise Palestinian sovereignty over natural resources. Live to Trudy McIntosh now. Trudy, why the shift?
Well, we've heard this morning from Cabinet Minister Jason Clare. He says this is designed to build momentum towards a two-state solution. For the first time, and it seems like more than nearly 2 decades, Australia didn't abstain or vote no. Instead, it chose to support this motion, a draft resolution at the United Nations, one that endorses Palestinian sovereignty over natural resources in places including Gaza and the West Bank. We didn't vote alongside the US and Israel. Australia, though, did vote with 155 other countries, including close allies New Zealand and the United Kingdom. This was a statement from a spokesperson for Foreign Minister Penny Wong saying, while Australia does not agree with everything in the resolution, this vote reflects international concern about Israeli actions that impede access to natural resources and ongoing settlement activity, amongst other things. The opposition has warned, though, that it risks putting Australia further out of step with our key ally, the United States, particularly ahead of Donald Trump's return to the White House. There's also a level of, I suppose, puzzlement, really, from pro-Israel groups here as to exactly why the change now.
It's actually in direct contrast to the Australian government's position on the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. So it's odd that Australia would vote for it.
On a separate motion at the United Nations, Australia also supported this motion that condemns Israel and casts the blame for this oil slick that occurred during the 2006 conflict with Lebanon, while the government says it's disappointed that the wording wasn't stronger in condemning Hezbollah's actions. It voted for it anyway, Kenny.
Trudy McIntosh, thank you.
When it comes to organizations, we need to strengthen organizations. There are organizations who do specific work of Kshatriya Dharma. What is Kshatriya Dharma in today's world? You will not do with the spears and phosphates.
You've talked a lot about this mass deportation and what it would look like, that it would start with criminals, that it would start with people who are in gangs. Some of the people who are in those gangs are from Venezuela. We've had an extraordinary number, 888,000 Venezuelan migrants have crossed the border. They say they will not take these people back. So can you give us a sense of how you're going to deal with Venezuelan migrants and also Chinese migrants, which we've seen thousands of? Both of those countries say they won't take them back. How will you deal with that, sir?
Well, look, we don't need a strong president like President Trump, right? Mexico didn't want to participate in the Remain in Mexico program. They didn't want to put military on the southern northern border. They didn't want to be part of third safe country agreements. Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador didn't want to sign the agreement either. But President Trump's a strong president. He held them accountable. Look, Venezuela, they don't take them back. President Trump has a lot of power. He could cancel all the visas. He can take the government visa, all the government representatives here, cancel the visas, cancel all the tourist and visitor visas. So there's a lot of things that President Trump can do to hold him accountable. So, and President Trump's strong enough to do that.
In terms of, we only have 45 seconds, I apologize, but in terms of what the message is right now and these caravans that are falling apart, what's changing already?
The criminal cartels in Mexico know that President Trump's going to pay a lot of attention to them. He's already said he's going to designate terrorist organizations and he's going to take them out. The aliens are making that trip. They know they're not under President Trump. There is no catch and release. There is no fraudulent asylum claims. You're either going to remain in Mexico or you're going to be in detention. You won't come across the border and be released, flown to the city of your choice by the NGOs at free taxpayer expense.
All right. Thank you so much. I apologize for the short time. Please come back.
It's only a matter of time before Molly joins the other crazy cat ladies and cuts her hair on camera to protest Trump and democracy.
I've given up on America. I've also given up on coloring this hair because, right? Coloring my hair, having my hair be long and luxurious, all that being skinny, being hot, and all the things that the patriarchy wants us to be, because clearly they don't give a about us. And I'm talking to you too, those of you ladies who have the internalized misogyny required to do what you did. Minorities who are so scared of a woman in power.
Put to one side the dementedness there, the racism, the bold-faced racism against minorities who voted for Trump, and marvel at just how hopeless this woman is. She can't even work a clipper. A literal monkey could work clippers. They're not hard to work out.